Welcome, dear souls. For those that don't know me, I'm Sherilyn White Star. It's been a while since I've done a video, one of these. It's been a few years. So I just wanted to come on actually and tell you a story. So that's just what I'm going to do today, and when I start the story I will actually move off screen. So just make yourself relaxed, grab a pause and go and make yourself a cuppa if you feel like it, and settle in. And if you feel like listening to a short story, here's one for you. See you soon. This story was told to me by a beautiful lady, a Cantadoria. Now, Cantadoria is a storyteller. It was the old ways of how people taught and passed on knowledge and information and teaching. So this comes from her. A long time ago, but not that long ago, in a place far away, but not so far, there was a young girl and two old women who were sisters. The young girl lived in a village in the forest beside a lake. She had been given by her grandmother the most beautiful legacy necklace. On the necklace were beads and figures with symbols. And the symbols represented challenges that they had met along the way, magical symbols and rings and shapes, herb symbols, all sorts of knowledge and information that her grandmother and her great-grandmother had gathered in their lives. And they had put these on these beads and made this amazing necklace for her. They represented crossroads of her life, sprigs of herbs that reminded her of what to use for healing, stones with prayers etched on them. Her grandmother and great-grandparents had spent so much love and care, carefully placing on the necklace the knowledge and wisdom they had gained through their own trials and hardships, and of those before them. And on gifting it to her granddaughter, she told her, "This is a beautiful necklace for you to grow into." The other girls in the village had their own legacy necklaces, but they were very jealous of this girl, because to them her necklace was better than theirs, and because she was different in some way to them. Somehow she stood out and was different. She had a different way about her. She saw things from a different perspective to them, was kind and caring, and knew when she needed to have time alone to be by herself, to spend time in the forest and the trees and the animals, and when she needed to be in company, in communion with others. The other girls each had their own gifts, but felt theirs were not good enough and wanted hers. So the girls took off their necklaces one day and hid them, and then went to find the young girl, who, when noticing they weren't wearing their necklaces, asked, "What has happened to them?" The girls replied, "Oh, we threw them into the lake. Have you not heard of the monster that lives there? We threw them there so he wouldn't come and eat the people of the village." The young girl, who had a caring heart, but was still a little naive, wanted to protect her village too. So she took off her necklace and threw it as far as she could into the centre of the lake. Well, the girls began to laugh and make fun of her. "You are so stupid. We can't believe you believed us," they said, and went and dug up their necklaces from where they had hidden them and put them back on and returned to the village. Wow. The young girl was so ashamed of what she had done. How could she have allowed herself to be fooled? All the love and care and hard work that had gone into her necklace, she had just thrown away. Heartbroken, she could not face returning to the village and walked off into the forest. She walked and walked and through the forest as if in a daydream until she became lost. Stumbling her way through the forest, she saw a flickering light in the distance and made her way towards it. But as she got closer, she saw a terrifying sight. She saw an old woman tending a fire, but the old woman was covered in scars and open wounds that were infected and weeping. She tried to sneak away before being seen, but the old woman called to her, "How have you found your way here?" "I am lost," the girl replied. "No," the old woman said again. "I ask you, how have you found your way here?" "Oh, sorrow," the young girl replied. "I believed a great untruth, and I was untrue to what I believed." And she told the old woman her story of what had happened. "Oh, that's just a naive spirit," the old woman replied. "I can help you, but first you must help me. You must kiss and lick my wounds." The young girl was shocked. She thought she would be asked to fetch some water or firewood. She looked at the deep, horrible weeping wounds and felt compassion for the old woman. And as the old woman lay down, she knelt over her and began to kiss, lick and cleanse her wounds and ragged scars. As she did so, the old woman cried out in pain, and then she sighed with release. Oh, thank you, dear. That feels much better." And the girl continued over the whole of the old woman's body with compassion, and each time the old woman cried with pain and then relief until it was complete. When finished, the old woman told the girl to sit back with her eyes closed and asked her if she could swim. "No," the girl replied. "I don't know how to swim. I haven't learnt." "All the better," the old woman replied, and held out her arm as if to give the girl an embrace, but instead picked her up in her gnarly arms and threw her into the centre of the lake, which was the deepest and darkest part. The young girl struggled and fought the water to try and stay afloat, but realized it was futile. Stopped struggling and let her body sink. To her surprise, she found she could breathe. She sank down through the layers of the lake, no longer resisting, losing her hair ribbons first, then her shoes, and then one by one her clothes pulled off her body by the currents and the underwater plants, until she was naked and finally touched down lightly upon the muddy and sandy bottom that was neither day nor night. As she stood there, she noticed in the distance a glow and started to move towards it. The water was thick and progress was slow, but she kept moving and was not afraid until she came to a grotto made of all these different types of shells. Inside the grotto was an old woman who looked just like the one she had met around the fire. But this one was naked and had no scars or wounds upon her, and around her neck was the most beautiful necklace of 100 carved shining stones. "You're under my protection now," the woman said. "The monster of the lake will not harm you, and I have your necklace. I knew that your heart was good in trying to protect your village, and because of your willingness to heal my sister, I have kissed and kissed your necklace. and I will return it to you. And as you can see, it has changed into these shining stones. I will grant it back to you." And as she placed it back on the young girl, the stones ignited with fire inside them, and the girl began to rise. The old woman kissed the girl over her body as she left, and she rose back up through the layers of the lake until she broke the surface of the lake, and the gentle waves caressed her back to shore. The young girl rose from the water like a goddess, wearing only her necklace with the stones shining like the midday sun, and a warm and soft glow in her eyes. When she walked back into the village, the other girls ran to meet her and started to ask her where she had been, but all they could see was her necklace and only wanted to know where she had got it from. The girls, upon hearing her story, ran immediately into the forest to find the old woman around the fire. When the old woman asked them to kiss and lick her wounds, they were disgusted and refused, and basically begged her to throw them into the lake. She asked them if they knew how to swim, to which they replied no, they had not learnt to swim, and the old woman threw each one into the centre of the lake, the deepest and darkest part. The girls drifted downwards, but they couldn't breathe underwater because of their lead-filled hearts, and became food for the monster. Each character in the story is actually an aspect of ourselves. The young girl is a partially awakened soul who is still a bit naive, searching for the knowledge on how to bring herself back, and the learning process of the soul, taking charge and teaching the ego that the ego must learn to serve the soul and not the other way around. The two old women are the two aspects of us. The wounded, scarred one that lives above ground is our physical body and being, and the one who lives below lives in the spiritual realm, our soul, and learning how they interconnect and affect each other, and learning to kiss and lick our wounds and those of another. We learn to develop mercy, compassion and love for ourselves and for another. The jealous girls had forgotten who they were. That's the part of ourselves that we have allowed society to tell us who we are, to forget our truth, our divinity, our beauty. They look to people who are vulnerable and feed off their wounds. We often put others down or want them to be small so we feel better about ourselves because we don't want to do the inner work on ourselves. And this are the jealous girls. This is the part of ourselves who's forgotten who we are. We want the treasure, we want the rewards, but we don't want to do the work. We don't want to go through the dark night of the soul. We don't want to reach into the shadows and the crevices to deal with the pain or the wounds and bring it to the light. This is the aspects of us that choose not to do the work, that think others are better than us, that we are not good enough. We believe the lies others have told us. We think we are not the right size, not the right colour, we don't have the right gifts, and we want what somebody else has. But this is a lie. Please know you are enough. You always have been. You are limitless. You are not here to be judged by someone else. What you truly carry is carried within your wounds and scars. This is the wisdom you hold. The wisdom must be retained, but the pain and cellular memory of the wounds and scars need to be kissed and released to understand the wisdom and take it from the head to the heart. At the end of the day, you will stand before your Creator or God, no one else, and be asked, did you love yourself enough to honour your gifts, who you are? What legacy do you choose to leave and pass on to your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren? Our unkissed and unhealed wounds are passed on down the generations, festering and weeping. We have the ability to not only heal our own wounds, but to go back, reweave, repair, and mend the legacy of our mothers and grandmothers, and great-grandmothers, and fathers and great-grandfathers, releasing old wounds and scars that have been carried for generations, choosing to break those cycles and create new ones. So again I ask you, what legacy do you choose to live? What legacy do you choose to pass on to the next generations? Namaste. The divine in me sees and acknowledges the divine in you. Much love from my heart to yours.